inclusion now is Scavenging Ooze. Ground Seal is gone. Scavenging Ooze is basically taking its place, and Cox has 3 of those to go along with the traditional things that you're going to find in Jund of Thratos, Delivery of Eldarin, and Huntmaster of the Fells. And he, my friend, Doomblade, also a new addition, he, my friends, is playing against Aintrazi, playing Esper Control.
So, Pat Cox on the play, Overgrown Tomb to Ollie's Watery Grave. Ollie a little light on M14 cards. Looks like, as far as I can tell, no Doomblades, just a Shrivel in the sideboard.
Okay. Shrivel, that is interesting.
Pat Cox has the nut draw of Farseek on 2.
Yeah, that is deemed the nut draw in Jund, of course. Playing a Farseek on turn 2, the deck is miles better when it has Farseek as opposed to when it does not. So Cox off to a very nice start here, both in the tournament and in this particular game against Aintrazi.
Yeah. Just basic notes about Ollie's list. It's the sort of Planeswalker style that him and Shahid Surani have been pretty high on the last year or so. Only main deck creature aside from Snapcasters, 1 Resto Angel. There's an Aetherling and an Obsidian in the sideboard. But he's Nephalia, Drown Yards, and Planeswalkers for the win.
Which Planeswalkers does he have?
2 Little Jace, Architect of Thought, 1 Tamio, 1 Sorin, and 1 Big Jace, Memory Adept.
Okay. So yeah, just like a lot of control cards and just trying to win games with Jaces, you're going to see Cox here cast a Huntmaster of the Fells. It's going to resolve 2 life and a Wolf token. It's going to come into play for Cox. So he's going to push himself up to 22. Again, for Cox's removal suite or the spells that are in this deck, you're going to find 4 Bonfire of the Damned, 2 Tragic Slip, an Abrupt Decay, a Dreadbore, a Putrefy, 2 brand new Doomblades, 2 Rakdos Returns, a Rakdos Keyrune, 4 Farseeks, and then only 2 Planeswalkers just go around and 2 Garruk Primal Hunter. And at some point, I feel like today, Ari, we're going to see Garruk Primal Hunters actually staring off against each other. So I'm actually going to see what that's like.
Looks like Pat Cox missed his Huntmaster flip. That was one of the key when I tested this matchup a couple sets ago, but fairly similar matchup. One of the keys to this was that if the Jund deck can stick an early Huntmaster, it's usually a good enough block on its own, especially with the flip adding an extra effective 4 damage over the first turn. That the Esper deck is forced to tap out and do something, the Jund deck can follow up with something else and just sort of set the tone for the rest of the game, set the tempo, and be able to be proactive against the Esper deck's threats.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he ended up missing that. A player of his caliber not flipping into Ravager of the Fells, hitting Aintrazi for 2 and actually getting in for a lot more damage. But he ends up missing it now. Aintrazi, we'll see if he has a Supreme Verdict, which it looks like he doesn't.
No Supreme Verdicts in the deck, just 4 Terminus.
Wow.
So Pat Cox's Scavenging Ooze, Huntmaster, Wolf Token, and Rakdos Keyrune are going to be all good to get in there.
So here's this looks like a Snapcaster Mage, maybe?
Yeah, Ollie kind of realizing he has to play these spells on his turn now. Draws a card with the flashback on Azorius Charm, passes the turn. A few Think Twice in hand, looks like he's got a Terminus. The question is, can he remain at a stable board state long enough to cast this Terminus? Is he going to just die very soon? So potentially this attack, next attack, and Rakdos Return, just 2 attacks. Also using that Snapcaster now gets the card out of the graveyard. Because Scavenging Ooze is in play, can't Snapcaster with that one in play.
That'll actually change some things too. Scavenging is going to have an impact on the format, even a minor one with Snapcaster Mage, as Aintrazi is going to block here the Scavenging Ooze. Going to take 4 from the Huntmaster and the token, so he's going to go down to 12.
Opting to block there because if he blocks the Huntmaster, 2 creatures in the graveyard is still 4 power on that Scavenging Ooze. So he doesn't really get power off the board that way.
So now here's a Garruk Primal Hunter. That's going to come in. You see the die tick up to 4. That means a Beast token is going to be coming into play for Cox. And he's going to be passing the turn back. So we'll see what Aintrazi can find.
Let's see. This might be looking at Miracle Terminus time.
Yeah, it might be. That's what he has to go for here. Watery Grave tapped.
Uh-oh.
Well, he does have Think Twice in his hand, so he can attempt to hit. The issue here is that Huntmaster is going to flip, assuming that Cox remembers it this time, which he does.
He does. So Ollie goes down to 10, facing down 9 on 11. 12 power with the Keyrune in play.
Yep.
Yeah, this could easily be the old aggro Jund, just beat down, turn 7 kill.
Yeah.
A bit faster than you would normally expect.
And I would be surprised if Cox doesn't go for it on this turn. Of course, Aintrazi's representing 4 mana, but he doesn't have anything in his graveyard. The Azorius Charm is kind of annoying as his Restoration Angel, but I could see him just firing up the Keyrune and just go, all right, let's just try to kill you.
Yeah, even in the worst case scenario, if Ollie Terminuses, there's a Garruk on 5 counters in play.
Yep.
And it makes a token.
So it looks like that's what Aintrazi's going to have to try to do. Here's a Think Twice.
Do or die.
Draw a card. That's a Terminus! Ali the Master.
You play these cards so we can draw them.
So he is going to Miracle of Terminus. Cox is going to put that Rakdos Key Rune, that Huntmaster of the Fells, and the rest of those tokens are going to go away. Aintrazi is going to stave off elimination off of a Miracle. Hard not to smile about that one. Now he's just got to try to beat that Garruk Primal Hunter. As you said, it's going to go up to 5 counters, and a Beast is going to be put into play.
He only has 1 Detention Sphere, 1 Cyclonic Rift in the main deck to directly get it off the board. He's light on creatures. He's going to have to, the only Planeswalker is 1 Sorin that can fight it. He's actually just kind of weak to Planeswalkers.
Yeah. Now he does draw a Syncopate for the turn, which is not going to be very helpful right now. You do see the Terminus on the screen, the Miracle saving Aintrazi so far. Here is an Athalia Drownyard. Aintrazi is going to pass the turn back. So Cox is going to draw his card for the turn, not a Miracle of his own, even though he does have a Bonfire of the Damned in his hand currently.
Looks like 2 Terminuses in Ollie's hand already, potentially. That means that was 1 of 2 left in his deck when that happened.
Yeah, don't tell Pat that. This is going to come across for 3. Aintrazi going to go down to 7. And what is Cox going to do in his second main phase? Maybe draw some cards, make another Beast maybe, get closer to Garruk Primal Hunter's Ultimate. We're just going to see a Farseek to start.
The whole Farseek Supreme Verdict dichotomy this entire season has been really interesting. Sort of back and forth on whether you need to go faster or whether you need to kill the resilient creatures.
Yeah, it has really gone back and forth with that, but Farseek is definitely at its best, I think, in the Jund deck overall. Yeah. Like, there are a lot of different Farseek decks, but I think this is the best one.
Yeah, Jund. The Bant deck tried to play it a little bit. There's some of the mid-range decks like your deck, the Jund aggro,
yep.
Falcon, those guys that try to play it, but this deck needs its mana.
Yes.
It wants to play 4-drop, 5-drop.
So here's a Think Twice. Draw a card, not a Terminus, just a Glacial Fortress. But Aintrazi can draw another one, and he will.
Think again. Doesn't have to leave up Terminus there.
Yep. So we'll see what he draws on this one. An Isolated Chapel, so he's got quite a few lands in his hand. You see the first 4 there are lands. He also has a Syncopate in his hand that he drew a couple turns ago, but he doesn't really have a ton going on. He might actually have to cash in a Terminus right now just to take care of these Beast tokens.
The old 0 for 1 round?
Yeah. Which is pretty unfortunate, but you see him slide that Terminus forward in his hand.
Life. Yeah.
And again, Jund decks typically have a card like Kessig Wolfrun in them. They also have a little bit of reach with Bonfire of the Damned. So, he could leave those tokens there, but if Cox were to be sandbagging a Kessig Wolfrun or have one in his hand, could really ruin Ollie's turn because he does play 2 of them.
Terminus away, Beast tokens cease to exist.
Yep.
Ollie passes with a single mana up. Garruk's on Ultimate. That's not likely to risk it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that he's going to make the Worm tokens and just hope for the best and lose his Garruk, unless he has a backup Garruk. You see 5 mana here.
Tusk.
Yep, and that is going to be a Thragtusk. So plus 5 life for Cox. He's going to go to 27.
I'm guessing we're going to see a draw 5.
Yep, and that's exactly what we see. 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Certainly feels like a cruel ultimatum there.
Yeah, it really does. It is a nice turn for Cox. I think one of those cards he drew, I believe, is a Farseek, so it looks like he's going to have some more things to do with his mana.
Yeah, Thragtusk was Garruk, the Green Sphinx's revelation.
Yeah, feels that way. 2 mana, Scavenging Ooze. Passes the turn back. Ooze is going to be an interesting card to watch, too, because, is Ooze better or worse than Groundsteel? I think is really interesting because they're very different cards, even though they're trying to fulfill the same role.
Yeah, Ooze is a little more marginal value. Like, just as a 2/2 against a Burning Tree Emissary deck, it'll do something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Groundsteel's cycling.
Yeah, a blank card against them.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to Snapcast the Terminus. Beast token comes into play off that Thragtusk. Yeah, Scavenging Ooze versus Groundsteel is pretty interesting.
Ollie leaving himself wide open to a Kessig Wolfrun if Cox has one. Also, a Miracle Bonfire will get the job done. Let's see what Cox is able to draw for the turn. It is a Miracle Bonfire of the Damned plus an attack. That's going to do it.
Only
for one miracle, there is another. Pat Cox wins game number 1 against Ali Aintrazi. Jund up 1 over Esper Controls. We're going to take a look at the sideboards here. We'll let you go first with Ollie's deck list because he is going to be on the play for game number 2.
Okay. Witchbane Orb definitely coming in.
100%.
Shuts off Rakdos Return, very important. shuts off potential duresses out of the sideboard, shuts off Huntmaster triggers, shuts off bonfires if they end up having to stay in for dealing damage. So Wishbane Orb, you might want one, maybe both of them. Ollie is two. Probably bringing Aetherling as your sort of mid-range control mirror trump.
Yep.
Negate. I don't know if he wants all 3 copies, but I could easily see 2 coming in.
Sure, I could see some number of negates coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't deal with Thragtusk, but you need to be able to deal with Rakdos Return Garruk. Pithing Needle can take out Castle Wolf Run. Very important role. Otherwise, you're having to answer every single threat out of the Jund deck. Yep. More Detention Spheres if you care about Garruk's. I don't think it's likely. I think I'll just stick with the 1 in the main deck at most. Barter in Blood, also unlikely. Curse the Dishold, unlikely. Planar Cleansing, I kind of like.
Okay.
Because it kills Garruk, it kills Kiryu.
Okay.
It seems like an upgrade to Terminus in this matchup.
Yeah, and I think we already saw him slide some Terminus out of his deck already.
Yeah. There's the rest of Ollie's sideboards, a Devour Flesh and a Shrivel. Neither is especially well positioned in this matchup.
Sure.
In terms of the main deck, he's boarding out a couple Terminus. A lot of these numbers are just things you can kind of play with. 4 far away, Azorius Charms, Think Twices. If you want less card draw, more card draw. I would not expect him to board out Planeswalkers.
Yeah,
I think that's one of his keys to this matchup is if he can just get a Planeswalker into play and then untap, he can deal with, tread water against Pat Cox's threats long enough that every turn he has a Planeswalker in play, he's actually making parity or getting ahead.
Yep, I agree. And, Planeswalkers are difficult for the Jund deck to beat in the first place. Like, they do have Bonfire, they do have Rakdos Return, yes, but as you said, if he's able to untap with a Planeswalker, that's where things get really difficult for Cox and his Jund deck.
Yeah, especially on the play, something like a turn 4 Jace Architect, I thought. If Pat, even if Pat has a Farseek hand, it's going to get difficult to kill that.
Yeah, I agree. As we take a look here at Cox's sideboard, you see him shuffling up here for game number 2. 2 Pillar of Flame, 2 Duress, 2 Barter in Blood, 1 Rakdos' Return, 2 Underworld Connections, 3 Liliana of the Veil, 1 Curse of Deathhold, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, and 1 Tragic Slip. He's definitely got some hate against control decks here. In 3 Liliana of the Veil, 1 Rakdos' Return, and 2 Underworld Connections.
2 Duress.
Yeah, and the 2 Duress as well. So we're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. And the nice thing about the Jund deck is they are able to take out their removal or their mediocre cards and sideboard into a very, very good deck depending on what they're playing against. Easy cards to come out here are a card like Dreadbore, the 2 Tragic Slips, probably all 4 Bonfire the Dams, honestly, 2 Putrefy, 2 Duneblades. Those are all very easy cards for Cox to sideboard out, and you can sideboard in the card drawing and Underworld Connections, the Planeswalker and Liliana of the Veil, and then an additional Rakdos Return to bring them up to 3, and then 2 copies of Duress.
I mean, even cards like Olivia in his deck aren't that great. It's a Phantom monster.
Yep.
What are you going to shoot with it?
Yeah, it's just a 3/3 that, in other matchups it's able to dominate a game, but in this one, as you said, it's just a 3/3 flyer for 4 mana.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have much of an impact. So I think that Cox is able to sideboard out a lot of bad cards, bring in some good cards. Unfortunately for him, he's actually up a game too.
Yeah.
So that's the really good part, where game 1 would typically be shaky. I think it would favor Esper Control a lot of the time. But instead, he actually wins game 1 and is able to sideboard out the bad card, sideboard in the good card, streamline his deck, and probably is favored in a sideboard game.
Yeah, very likely. Looking around the room, we can see Joel Larson seeking his invite to the Invitational next week in New Jersey.
He's on a quest.
On a quest over from Europe, touring the States for a couple months, battling Magic, played in some Grand Prix, came over, played in some Opens, and this is his last chance to queue for the Invitational next week. And Table 1's not a bad place to be if that's your goal.
Yeah, no, he said he was coming in, he was thinking about playing an update to his Grixis deck that he got 11th place with in Worcester. Him and Gerard Fabiano basically worked together on that. If you guys can't see right now, but Gerard actually sitting next to Joel right now, birding him, watching. So, we'll see how Joel ends up doing, because he's off to a nice start, sitting at Table 1, 3-0, looking to get that invite for Somerset next weekend. So you see Aintrazi and Cox taking a look at their opening hands. Both players are happy, and Aintrazi is going to start with a Glacial Fortress, Cox with a Blood Crypt, so game number 2 is underway. And it looks like Aintrazi has the Buddy Land draw, Isolated Chapel and Glacial Fortress, but Cox without a Farseek, fortunately. And an Azorius Charm here for Aintrazi is going to let him cycle, play another Isolated Chapel and pass the turn back, but no Ravnica or Basic Duel, no Ravnica Duel or Basic Land yet to be able to play these lands in untapped. So you're going to see Cox play his 3rd land, and that is an Underworld Connection, so that is going to suit up on a Woodland Cemetery and pass the turn back. So his card drawing engine, while not a Phyrexian Arena, is still online.
Yeah, Phyrexian Arena with Upkeep 1 is still pretty good.
Yes. Another buddy land here for Aintrazi. So again, no watery grave, no hollowed fountain, no godless shrine. So just really slow out of the gate.
We do see a planner cleansing in his hand. That will take care of the underworld connections when he fires it off.
So here's a Hunt Master of the Fells from Cox. This is how he started off the last game too. A little bit slower this time, not on turn 3, but he's got a wolf token, he's got a 2/2, and he's got 2 more life.
Not using the underworld connections this turn. So and Ollie has the chance to fire off this planner cleansing in potentially 1 more turn. It's unlikely that we'll get more than 1 card back out of it.
Yeah. And you see Aintrazi does have a Sorin Lord of Innistrad in his hand, but it's just not the best card to play right now, especially if he wants to set up a planner cleansing. But it looks like he might just go for it. Okay, so he is going to.
It gains him a lot of life to cast this, especially because it prevents the Huntmaster flip.
Okay.
This is the difference between taking 1 damage next turn and taking 8 damage next turn.
Sure. So there's your Vampire. This is going to go on up to 4. I'm going to pass the turn back.
The other thing worth noting is with all these buddy lands, he might have another turn before he can cast the cleansing.
Yeah, I know. It's a really, really rough draw. You see Isolated Chapel and Glacial Fortress in his hand.
Yeah, and hopefully he's sitting there hoping he doesn't get Rakdos return.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get Rakdos return here at all. I mean, even a Rakdos return for 3 is pretty good right now from Cox.
Yeah.
So into Sorin, we're going to go. Vampire going to jump right in front of that Huntmaster of the Fells. So Aintrazi is actually going to end up gaining a life, but Sorin's going to go down 2.
Pat is an interesting choice. He can pass on the Huntmaster, but if Ollie is something like a Doomblade, he can kill the Huntmaster with the trigger on the stack. If the Huntmaster flips, though, it kills Sorin. Pat Cox is sitting there on 6 power with the Underworld connections. Looks like he just has a Thragtusk, though.
Yeah, so Thragtusk is going to show up, going to gain Cox 5 life, going to give him a 5/3 body.
Commit to the board, fights through Sorin, and even if there's a sweeper of some kind, the Thragtusk still leaves behind the 3/3.
Yep.
So Ollie does not have an untapped land for this planner cleansing. Just looking at a Think Twice. Token coming in for the Sorin. Ollie's probably going to fire off this Think Twice here to prevent the Huntmaster from flipping.
He's having 4 mana on his turn.
Resto
It's going to be a
Angel.
Restoration Angel. Okay, so he's, of course, not going to blink the token, just wants, again, to make sure that Huntmaster of the Fells does not flip. And of course, you can probably bet that Cox has sideboarded out some amount of removal. Again, Aintrazi's deck has 4 Snapcaster Mages and 1 Restoration Angel. That's it, as far as creatures are concerned. So leaving in cards like Abrupt Decay is fine because of the Attention Sphere, but cards like Dreadbore, Putrefy, Doomblade, those are probably in the sideboard now.
Yeah, unless you put him on a bunch of Planeswalkers that you want to Dreadbore, absolutely all those come out. You know, his best creature is going to be 8th of Link Post sideboard, and you're never killing that card.
Yeah. So Thragtusk turns sideways. Aintrazi's going to trade that with a Restoration Angel. It was attacking Sorin, so he could have blocked with a Vampire token if he wanted to. There's a Kessig Wolf run that Cox could have played, but how about a Rakdos return instead? Which is going to be for 4 and take out your Sorin. So there goes the entire hand. There goes your Planner Cleansing. There goes your Think Twice. Everything else, leaving Aintrazi with just a Vampire token.
That was brutal. And
Yeah.
Pat has a Wolf run in play.
Rakdos return typically is brutal.
Yeah.
Taking out a Planeswalker didn't hit Aintrazi's life total, but took care of everything else.
Yeah, all of these, you know, there's Rakdos return now, there was Blightning in the past. These X damage to a player and they discard cards. It's just so brutal against Planeswalker control decks.
Yep, it really is, and it's such a great tool to be able to beat any of the Planeswalkers.
Yes.
So you see Aintrazi has drawn a card for the turn again. He has Think Twice in his graveyard. It looks like he's drawn Far and Away, so he's going to fuse that. He's going to bounce the token, and then Cox has to sacrifice something. So, again, when you're fusing Far and Away, the blue part happens first, then the Edict part happens.
Yes.
So Cox sacrifices the Wolf token. The Beast token is bounced from Thragtusk. He's left for the Huntmaster of the Fells versus a Vampire token.
Huntmaster going to crash in here.
Yeah, pretty good place to start, and Ollie is immediately going to block. See if Cox wants to give it Trample, Kessig Wolf Run, which he does not, which is a bit disconcerting.
The other thing, too, is that, you know, he has to block there because if Pat just shoves all his mana into the Wolf Run and he doesn't block, Huntmaster's going to flip and kill the Vampire.
Yep.
So, 5 mana. Pat's leading up the Blood Crypt, not the land with the connections on it, it looks like. He might be looking at his lands to fix that, but nope. Oh,
yeah,
triple
he
green
needs
for
it,
Garrett.
yeah, triple green.
It's a little better than drawing the cards, making
Yep.
it 3/3. His Underworld connection's been doing not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot yet. He hasn't had to use it yet. Here's Far and Away, going to bounce a token and take care of that. So, again, not bad from Aintrazi, but now he has to be able to try to beat a Planeswalker, which we saw he couldn't do in the previous game.
And the Wolf Run.
And the Wolf Run. And the connections.
Yep. Yeah, Pat just has so many things going on right now. Yep, Underworld Connections activation number 1 from Pat.
Planar Cleansing, where are you?
Right in the bin. Don't even have enough to Snapcaster it, not even close. Ollie's probably going to, in order for him to win, he's going to have to get a Sphinx's Revelation very soon.
Yep.
Pat Cox burns 2 life to a Blood Crypt. Whatever, I've got a lot of life. Plays a Farseek.
He has not used the Garrick yet this turn either.
No, I'm guessing that his other mana goes towards a Huntmaster.
Yeah.
Yep, there
and
we
you
go.
nailed it. So Huntmaster of the Fells, Wolf token. There's your 2 life to negate the 2 damage he took.
Tick up that Garrick, make a beast. Drawing 2 cards is not enough.
Aintrazi's going to draw a card. I think if he draws a land, I think he has to put it immediately into play, just in case he draws a Revelation. But, I mean, maybe not. Like, maybe he can just hold whatever card he draws.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues here. You know, he has the Think Twice in the graveyard too, but passing back and letting the Huntmaster flip is a problem.
Cox missed the trigger again. Wow.
It's just, you know, werewolves are they just feel odd to play with.
It's just I'm very strange to see Pat do this as someone who's been playing Jund for such a long time. And,
yeah, he doesn't look very happy with this.
Yeah, I mean, the second time that he's done that in this match, it's just very, very strange to see someone of his caliber and seeing someone who's been playing Jund for such a long time to miss both of those flips.
Very strange. Think twice.
Maybe we're going
getting
for a
ready.
Terminus.
No
Terminus.
Once is enough. That's all we get.
So here's a large Wolf Run activation. It's going to be for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage.
Yep.
Going to put Aintrazi down to 10.
Likely 2 more on Aintrazi's upkeep if Pat sees that.
Yep. Makes a beast. Well, no, Think Twice was cast.
Oh, Think Twice. Yeah. There we go.
And you see on Aintrazi's hand, he has a land and a Tamiyo the Moon Sage in his hand, so he's going to draw another card. I believe that was an Aetherling. And it was, but I don't think this is good enough to get him out of this situation. And the main reason, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but the big culprit here is Kessig Wolf Run. That's the main reason that it's not going to be enough to come back.
No.
So you see the playful banter between Aintrazi and Cox. He's just going to pass the turn back.
Yeah. Ollie is at 1, 2 few life, or just barely not enough resources. You know, if you could play Tamiyo, draw a bunch of cards. If Pat had 1 less power on board, he could maybe draw into an Azorius Charm and live, but just not happening.
Either way, Aintrazi is going to extend the hand, and Pat Cox is going to win this match 2-0 in pretty decisive fashion. Jund does defeat Esper Control, and Cox is going to move on to 4-0, while Aintrazi is going to get his first loss on the weekend.
Yeah, that looked pretty easy for Pat, actually.
Yeah, it really did. And again, I think this matchup it's super important for Cox to be able to win game number 1, because I don't think he's favored in game 1. I think that he's a slight dog, not a huge one, but you know, it's up to Pat to draw like his cards that actually matter and not draw a handful of removal and Bonfire of the Damned, which he didn't do. He actually ended up drawing, you know, Garrick Primal Hunter, Huntmaster of the Fells, Scavenging Ooze, Rakdos Return, drew his relevant cards in game number 1, and then game 2 he's able to sideboard out those mediocre to bad cards, sideboard in all awesome cards, and solidify his matchup.
How much of that do you think is him knowing that Ollie's going to be on Esper? Maybe, you know,